Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Mile High Game Guys Board Gaming Podcast. I'm your host, Adrian.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And this is one of our new fancy standalone review episodes.
The fanciest of reviews.
I mean, we've been doing it for a month and a half. It's not that new anymore, is it?
No.
It's still within 10. I feel like after 10 of these, then they're not new.
Yeah. And then it's like, meh, we don't want to listen to this
just doing the same old thing.
Meh.
This week, we're going to be covering Indonesia, which I know you guys have been just really excited for.
I got my vomit bucket right over there.
So we're you guys have been like twisting my arm. You're like, oh, Adrian, can we review Indonesia, please?
Yep, yeah.
It's the same as my hedonism bucket. So,
You regret nothing.
Oh, God.
binge and purge, everyone.
Yep.
All right, well, clearly time to move on to the review before binging and purging takes over the episode.
Do you have a zombie?
Okay, well, like I said, this episode is going to be us reviewing Indonesia, which is a 2005 release from designers Jeroen Doeman and Joris Wettersinga of Splatterspellen, the publisher. It plays 2 to 5 players, takes 180 to 240 minutes. Yes, Zach?
It's a real short game.
I can't imagine playing with the 2 players.
Oh. No. Takes 180 to 240 minutes. Zach, you got a rules breakdown for us?
Yeah, sure. In Indonesia, you are some sort of vague, rich business person trying to make the most money. Over 3 eras, you'll be acquiring and merging companies to produce and ship goods across Indonesia. After bidding for turn order, you can get a new company if you have an open slot, either production or shipping. Production companies have goods that nearby cities will want, but you'll need a shipping company to actually move them there. If you can't use your own ships, you'll have to use an opponent's, paying them for the privilege of moving your goods. The cost of shipping increases for each ship used. If you have to ship far away, you can actually spend more money on shipping than you would actually get back for shipping the good. You can also cause 2 companies of the same type to merge, allowing you to snap up your competition if you win the bid. At the beginning of each era, new cities will come out, as well as new types of companies, giving you new selling opportunities. After the end of the final era, whoever has the most money is the winner and is the best vague, rich businessman, person, woman.
Correct.
Yes.
I think business person encompasses businessman and businesswoman.
No, I know,
but
when I said businessman, I was like, I got to cover all 3 of my bases.
correct.
Absolutely.
It's probably for the best. Yeah. So that is Indonesia.
That's our review. Sounds good.
No,
Wrap it up.
that is the brief
4 minutes
vague
in.
overview of the game. To start off with the what did we think going into this game thing, I'm going to start because I played this game the longest ago. So I got introduced to Splatter largely thanks to the Heavy Cardboard podcast, who is also based here out of Denver and who I occasionally get to go up and play games with. And I'd been slowly kind of like leaning towards the heavier end of the hobby for a long time. And then I got to go up and I played games with them and they introduced me to Food Chain Magnate, which was my first Splatter. And I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. And at that point, like I kind of went heavy. I was like, man, I want to play all the Splatters. Indonesia just had a reprint, but at the time it was kind of unavailable. The initial burst of the new printing had already kind of passed, and it was hard to find. And I still like to mostly play games at least once before I buy them. So we went to Geekway and hanging out at Geekway, and by we I mean Zach and I. Jeff did not go. But on the last day, Sunday at Geekway, somebody was posting in the Geekway Slack channel that they were looking for players for Indonesia. And I was like, hell yes. I'm ready for this. So I met up with 2 people whose names escape me. And so we played a 3-player game of Indonesia. It was mine and the woman who played with us his first time. And the guy who owned the game, he had played once before, but he wasn't sure he'd played right. And it was a long time ago. So we were basically all newbies.
Spotter game. Shocker.
Yep. And we kind of worked our way through it. And it took probably about 5 hours, which I've come to learn is actually pretty accurate for a 3-player game.
Okay.
And I loved it. I ended up losing, but I could immediately see, like, as soon as the game ended, I was like, well, this is exactly where I messed up. And anytime I have a game that's like that, then it's like, well, next time I want to try again and not mess up there. And so I wanted to play more and more and more and try and continue to optimize my play of this game. So that was my initial interaction. I then proceeded to play it like a half dozen more times before I ever got you guys to play. And I've been hounding you for a while about it. So what were your guys' thoughts going into our first play of this a few weeks ago?
I remember after Food Chain, and I, not a fan of that. And then after you played Geekway, you played it at Geekway, and you're like, oh, I was like, fuck, he's gonna want to review this now.
Correct.
And so because I was really not a fan of Food Chain. I was really sort of dreading I was dreading playing it, and I was like, my first time I was like almost psyching myself up. I was like, oh man, anything on here I find, I just want to shit all over. So I definitely didn't. I came in from a negative viewpoint.
Okay.
So
Jeff, what were your thoughts going into that first play?
The first time I think I had even heard of this game, it was that Paul got a copy for like $27 because it had basically a spear thrown through the box.
I don't know what happened to that game. We picked it up again at Geekway. We went to the
Ding and
miniature
Dent.
market. We went to their actual physical location, and they have a Ding and Dent thing. And so we were at miniature market, and it was on the wall. And I was initially like, oh shit, Indonesia? Yes, I'll buy that. And she was like, I should warn you, it's a Ding and Dent. Let me show you. And she turns it around, and I'm like, nope, I'm out. Fuck that.
Looks like it had been used as like a bulletproof vest at one point.
and then Paul's just like, I'll talk her down.
Yep. It's like 60%. I can get her down to 80% off.
Yep.
And did.
So props to him.
Yeah. But I didn't know much more beyond that it was a swatter game, and it took place around Indonesia.
In some sort of vague timeline.
Yeah.
But I'm still not sure.
Yeah. It kind of goes all over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have have the same dread as Zach?
No,
playing it, or?
it's hard to find me dreading playing any board game. As anyone that's listened to the show, I kind of like everything, and it's really hard to get me to hate anything. Magic the Gathering. And
I'm sorry, what was that, Jeff? I didn't quite catch that.
Magic the Gathering. But you have to get some real specific conditions to happen to where I won't like something. So I will always give something a chance.
Cool.
So I had no dread going into this game.
Right on. I've played this, like I said, well over. I'm nearing a dozen plays of this game. It's probably right now, since I started tracking plays back in February, it is my most played game, which kind of blows my mind because it's a hard game to get to the table. So the fact that it's my
long.
most played game is interesting. It helps that it was a game of the month up at Heavy Cardboard HQ for an entire month. So I played it every Friday for a month, which helps.
Must have been a real rough time for you.
Ah, it was fantastic. They were the best of times. Anyhow.
The blurst of times.
And so I've played it nearly a dozen times. You guys have played it a couple times. What do you guys think of the components? And for the purposes of this one, especially because I have a bone to pick that I'm going to bring up, but for the purposes of this one, let's try and focus on two different parts for this. Physical components and then artwork separate.
That's fine. Physical components.
Your edition fucked up.
Yep.
Yeah, so I have the second edition, which has a massive printing error.
Mm-hmm. All of those wooden rice bags, and then the rubber that looks like a
offset enterprise.
Yeah. Oil that just looks like a drop of water, etc. It's like 400% bigger than it should be, right?
Yes.
And I believe Splatter was just like, meh, sorry.
Well, it wasn't quite that bad. Like they put in every copy a piece of paper that says, erratum. Due to a printing error, here is how you fix this. You basically swap what you used the pieces for.
Right.
It's certainly not ideal.
No, it is not.
However, I think that the workaround, like by swapping what you do the pieces for, it still works just fine.
Right. It uses paper money.
Yes.
Which is garbage.
Which any play that we played, I personally did not use paper
Yes.
money.
No, we used poker chips.
Yep, because I have a set of poker chips that I carry with me almost specifically for heavy euros.
Very nice poker chips.
They work a lot better.
$40 Target poker
Also,
chips that
it
Jeff
comes-
helped me buy.
It comes with the paper money, and then it also comes with like
Cardboard punch-out money.
Cardboard money as well.
So the ones and fives are very thin, like cardboard, almost card stock
yeah.
punch-outs. And then the 10s and above are paper money, which is an interesting way to do it. I mean, like in real life, you use a combination of coins and paper money. So I can see where the thought was. And then especially if you still intend to use the fives to track ships, which we'll get to in a little bit, if I had to play with the base set, I would rather have the 5SP coins than be paper money. At least the 5s. The 1s I could take or leave.
Fair enough.
1 paper money, 5 coins, 10 and up, back to paper money.
I mean, you barely use 1s in this game.
No, you're not wrong there. I don't like the ships because what did you get?
So I purchased from Spiel Material. I always want to say Spielworks, so they're an actual publishing company. Spiel Material sells a Indonesia upgrade kit for like €8, $10, like something like that. 15 shipped to America. That adds a wooden cubes for the resources, which you don't really need. The biggest thing that it adds, and what I bought it for, was the wooden ships. Because the base game, the ships are cardboard rectangle punch outs.
Yep.
And they have they all have the same back, which is like the big 3-masted ship. And then half of them, the front is a smaller 2-masted, and then the other half is a really small, like 1-masted ship. And the reason is, in theory, you can track up to 3 different shipping companies, but you don't. It doesn't happen very often that you'd have 3 shipping companies to track
that are separate
in a given player color.
Yeah.
And they take up a kind of they're a little awkward to control.
Yeah.
Like for placing on the board.
This is just once again another thing where it's like somebody created something else for the game that is cheap to buy, but then it makes it a lot better that you just are like, why did you guys decide to do that?
Yeah.
Versus just use wooden ships.
Yeah, I mean, I can see with them, I understand the idea of wanting to have the versatility that the cardboard pieces provide. Like I said, you can indicate 3 different shipping lines per player color. But realistically, that just doesn't come up in the game. Like, you might own 2 shipping lines.
I've only seen someone own 2. That's about it.
In which case, you can do one set standing up and then just lay them on their side for the other set. The first edition, the shipping lines, they were just separate colors. And that's why there's a holdover from that on the second edition board where they have player hole and then company hole. Because when you bought a shipping line, it wasn't necessarily in your player color. You just picked one of the available colors, and that was your shipping line.
Gotcha.
Which had the benefit of every shipping line had a distinct color, but then you had to keep track of the fact that some players controlled like 3 different colors of shipping.
Right. Yeah. I'm glad they didn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the crazy size
Pieces, yeah. If the printing error hadn't happened, then I wouldn't really have any complaints about the components. Like, it would have been kind of like Food Chain. Like, they have nice shaped wooden pieces. Like, yes, the tires look vaguely like an off-shaped Enterprise. Yeah. Yes, the oil drop looks like a water drop because drops of liquid tend to look like drops of liquid. If they'd been the right size, I'd have been much more supportive of that.
They're all colored. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really what matters.
The cardboard chits are decent cardboard stock. Like, they're not super flimsy or shitty in that regard. The player board's solid. Art wise, I said I wanted to keep these separate, and entirely because Paul said there's art in Indonesia. So there's not much.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like when you said it.
Mostly because yes, that is Paul's voice. I'm an expert at imitating Paul,
as we've learned. Yes.
So there's not a lot of art in Indonesia because there's not a lot of components that there's places for artwork on. It's a lot of cardboard punch outs and little wooden bits. The board is definitely made to look like an old school map. Like, it's even got like weathered stained spots in the corners and stuff. It's meant to look like an old map. And I think I don't know, I picked up on that immediately. And then the actual like box art and the art on the back of the handful of cards you deal with in the game, I think is really good.
Box art, fantastic. Very pretty.
I mean, maybe the top part, the bottom one.
I mean, I haven't looked at the bottom, to be
It's
fair.
just white.
Yeah. I understand their goal of like, we're going to make a map of Indonesia and it's going to look like a real map. But I don't want to play a board game on a map. I
Yeah.
want to play a board game on a board that looks like a board game.
Design-wise, it can be really... Like, the fact that there are spaces where one piece is bigger than that entire space, for me, irks me.
Yes, I do think that it would have been better if the board was like 150% bigger. Like, if they just stretched the entire board, made it a little bigger, added another set of folds.
Maybe could have gone through the color palette a little more.
Yes, exactly.
Because we have like white, light beige, slightly darker beige and brown.
Yeah.
And then a slightly lighter brown.
Yes, yeah.
It's 5 colors, but 2 of them are way too close to each other to designate regions.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't have the best eyesight in the planet, but I've never had a problem determining those colors like that. Like in our most recent game,
No, yeah, it's
Paul brought that up because he was like, "Oh, I can place it here," and I was like, "No, it's this or this." Like, I can see the color difference, and I pointed out. He's like, "Oh, I guess they are different." It's like I don't know how you didn't notice. Like I could tell. Like
it's not-
looking across the table
Yes.
at your tablet screen from an angle, I can tell those are different colors.
no, it's. I mean, you're not wrong there, but I still think that they should be. It should be more.
Could be better.
It could be better.
I think they definitely wanted to stick with that kind of subdued brownish, grayish tones. Like they didn't want like
So
blue,
they're-
green, red, like bright, weird colors, which would have looked mishmashed and really shitty.
So they're going for fashion over function.
And
I
not,
think it functions just
not
fine.
ev-
Like I said, I
I-
can tell the difference in the colors. I've never had an issue
but
telling
not
the
everyone
difference.
can.
Not everyone can.
Clearly.
It's clearly not a mass market game.
No. Not, which, that's
Target's not going to
spotters
sell
aren't.
this.
I don't think Target's going to get Indonesia.
Okay, but still, the fact that it's how much was Miniature Marker selling it for? 160, but I'm guessing it's like 100 MSRP or whatever.
I think MSRP is 100. You can get it for like $80.
Yeah, that's still too much for like component wise. I feel like it is definitely lackluster in that respect. So
Price to component wise.
yes,
Yeah, well, I think that the gameplay more than makes up for that. But we can come back around to that.
Yeah. But yeah, art wise, I think they have some good design and good thoughts on what it is, but I want a little more.
yeah. Paul was talking about some sort of map to
Yes.
print off that makes it a lot easier to read.
There's one, it's like the first image you search on Board Game Geek under Indonesia and images. And I'm like, oh, that would be a real nice board to play on.
Yeah. So the guy who designed that board, he was actually at Gen Con, and I got to see that board, and this is where I fall into like I get torn because, and we'll be sure and include an image for this in the show notes and everything. For function,
Much more functional.
It's super functional, but it breaks the aesthetic. Like I can understand why
You're using-
Blotter didn't do
Yes.
that because it breaks the aesthetic.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like that is fully and like like I said, the guy like I met him at HeavyCon. Like these are people who really truly like they love 18xx games where the boards are pure function, no form, and that's more what this board is.
Yes.
It would make it way easier to play, but I think it does break a little bit of that
Design
idea that Spotter was going for. I don't know. What do you think, Zach? You've been mulling it over, looking at that picture for a little while.
Color wise, it's definitely better.
They're more distinct.
Yes, and I think the C lines too are the C lines in that map one are a lot more
artistic.
in that respect, and
There's a lot of extremely
curved lines.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of extremely tiny lines that might separate a sea in between islands that you might miss.
There's
Yeah.
like one place that the
There's
C
like
does
literally
that.
one, but it's an important.
It is a
place.
very important one.
Yeah.
but I can see what you're talking about with like because it has the different colors and stuff like that aren't in the other one. I don't know what that means. Oh, are these colors the what comes out?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That I'm not a biggest fan of, and also the colors, it's okay, but
Yeah, and like those big chunks off to the sea, or so you could track like production levels or ship levels or something like that.
oh, I thought it was just I thought it was like
Hull
person.
size.
Yeah, that makes more sense then. Meh.
That board is also the actual dimensions that are there are like roughly 150% bigger than the board that comes in base Indonesia.
Gotcha. It's
so they
better
did
in that respect,
grow it.
but yeah.
So the pieces all fit in the small little island
That's good.
spaces.
I like it. I like the little colored cube areas where you can
Yeah.
tell what things are shipping where and stuff like that.
I think I'd rather play on that one just because it's easier to form on. But yeah, I not that big a fan of either of them. But
Yeah.
because you're such a big fan of Indonesia.
Yes, clearly.
Yep.
So rules and rules explanation. I think this game actually teaches pretty easy for the basic rules. And this is something I've noticed, granted I've only played 2 spotters, Indonesia and Food Chain. The base rules are simple enough. Like this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens. Like you go through these steps, these things happen during each step. Like boom, that's it. The devil's in the details though. Like this game, there's a lot of like bidding during mergers and during the merger phase and things like that. And people are like, well, how do I know how much to bid? Like, well, I don't know how to explain that to you. Like, that's where the depth of this comes into is like, well, what company do I choose? Well, I don't know. Like, what do you think is going to be best? What plan do you want to take? Do you want to try and control shipping? Do you want to try and grow a massive rice farm? Do you want to, what do you want to do? What do you think is going to work?
We forgot to mention cities. The color is off for those different.
Oh, yeah, for components. Yeah, so stepping back real briefly to components is a real small thing. The cities are little glass beads, like aquarium glass. They're
vase filler.
Yeah. They come in 3 colors, green, yellow, and red. Yellow is for the level 1 city, then green for the level 2s, then reds for level 3s, which makes no sense.
Yeah.
It should definitely be green, yellow, red. Even playing up with Edward and Amanda up at Heavy Cardboard on one of those game nights, like, we started out placing the greens as level 1 cities, and we're like, shit, we don't have enough, like they're supposed to be, it says 12 level 1 tokens. Like, we only have like 8. And it was because we were using the wrong color.
Yeah.
So maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know why you would do yellow, green, red, and not green, yellow, red.
Sort of a brownie kind of like brown, green, red, but
Yeah, still.
yeah.
I'm just surprised they use those and not like a token or something. It's like 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, I don't know.
Here's some glass beads.
Yes.
Glass beads are inexpensive.
True.
You can just buy those in bulk. You don't have to print special tokens.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Anyway, on to rules and rules explanation, or back to rules and rules explanation. Yeah, I don't think the base rules are that difficult. Did you guys have any trouble understanding how the game played? Like,
No.
either of the times that you guys played?
Don't think so. Like, the only complication from rules was in the real, like, later game minutia of, like, how things ship through what ships and just keeping track of that.
Which, yeah, and that's more the
Bookkeeping.
gameplay, like
Yeah.
the fiddly, like it does get fiddly in the late game, which we'll cover more in gameplay. Because tracking some of those late game shipping routes can get tricky.
Like, rule wise, like the arrows were pretty clear. How to do stuff. I mean, it's all like, I don't know, what is there, 7 different phases?
But each one is simple and
Pretty basic.
It's Oh, you get to research one thing. Choose one thing to research, and it just means you just go up ahead 1 on any of those tracks. There's no, you have to have like any requirements or anything. It's just you choose 1, move it up 1. There you go.
Yep. So yeah.
I don't think I can complain about the rules at all.
No, and this one is actually like, I think the rule book, and even for Food Chain, like Spotter's rule books they do good rule books. I think they cover pretty much any like little random details you can come out with. They walk you right through the steps and what you need to do. So moving on to the main chunk of the review, gameplay. So no surprise to anyone, holy shit, I love the gameplay of this game. I think Indonesia is absolutely fantastic. I love the way that, so as the game plays, it plays out over 3 eras, and
There's only one way to end an era, right?
Yeah, and technically 2, but they're basically the same. An era ends when there's only one type of company available or no companies available, which for all intents and purposes, like if there's one or less type of company available, the round ends. Then at the start of each era, new cities appear and new companies appear, and then you play through that era. And then at the end of the 3rd era, that's the end of the game. And
you double score on the very last turn?
Yeah, the very last round, like basically once you realize like this era is the last of the game, then...
Or could possibly be,
which we almost ran into in our most recent playthrough. You basically just, the money you earn, you kind of set slightly aside from your main bank so that if that is the last round of the game, it can all be doubled. But despite the fact that the companies always start in the same regions, despite the fact that the cities, there's 5 cards for each era and each card has 3 different places where a city can come out. So if you're playing a 3-player game, you deal out the 3 cards, 3 out of the 5 for each era. So there's some variability there about where cities will come out, and like each like region has multiple smaller spaces in it.
And then it's up to the person to put them down.
Yes.
So yeah.
And I know the first time I played, I was like, wow, like the companies all still come out in the same region. The cities all come out in the same like regions, like each time. Like, I don't know how that'll like work for long-term replayability. Well, having played nearly a dozen times now, none of the games to me have played the same.
No.
Like shipping goes entirely different routes. companies get merged in weird ways.
Who owns what company at what time is super important.
Yeah.
Like, I don't own that company. Oh, shit.
Yeah. Some of the initial moves, and this is the same thing in Food Chain, some of the very initial turns can feel somewhat scripted. Like, okay, somebody's probably going to take the rice company on Bali. Like, that's a pretty solid starting company. Somebody's probably going to take one of those southern shipping routes, But, like, I've seen some games where the 2 spice companies out in the West just went away. Nobody took them. In our last game, like, one of the main shipping routes, like one of the big shipping routes from the first era, nobody took, and it went away.
And then our shipping was concentrated on the southwest side.
Yeah.
Pretty much it. So
things like that offer a whole lot of variability to the gameplay as it goes. I mentioned, like, going into my first play, like, at the end of that one, I realized I made a mistake at the end of the game. I was like, I want to play again and not do that mistake again. I've never had a game come up where that situation has arisen again. I've not been able to correct that mistake.
I've not had the option.
I've learned to not be as aggressive in late game mergers because you can really screw yourself by either paying too much for a merger or vice versa, letting a company go for not enough.
Or not having enough bank to fight off a merger.
Yep.
Also, yes. I don't know. What do you guys think? I've been the only one really talking about gameplay. What did you guys think about the gameplay?
It was interesting. I know for me, every time that I played, I never raised mergers until like the last time we played. I raised it right at the end just because I was like, I fucked up earlier. I need to merge something, otherwise I am screwed. But I never I didn't want to deal with trying to figure out if it was the right time to do a merger or anything. It was just like, I'm gonna have my companies. I'm gonna do it how I want, and then just hope that I have enough money to protect against people stealing my stuff away, or at least make it to where I would get a decent amount of money for it.
Gotcha. Jeff?
Yeah.
Any thoughts? Or Zach more?
No. I mean, well, I'll say more, but Jeff can go ahead and say his initial.
I definitely like the strategy in this, also my second Splotter game, more than Food Chain. You have a much bigger option of decisions. Sometimes you can kind of get cornered into decisions where it's like, well, I can make this bad decision or this worse decision, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it works out. But the game goes on long enough, and you can kind of fix those things, especially with the merger action, because it doesn't have to be your company that you merge. You can be like, you and you. All right, I've got this pile of money. Now fight.
Yeah. And you have no choice on it because once you choose to merge our rice company, it's like, oh fuck, I was not prepared for that.
Was not prepared.
Oh god.
And I have to start spending some money.
So it can the flow of the game can change quite rapidly based every time a merger. Like when you see somebody raise the merger from 2 to 3, a lot of people are like, I'm going to tighten my butthole a little bit. It could get hairy next week or next game or next turn.
And that's one of the things I like is that the way you have to raise your merger, and it's like everybody sees that and they're like, oh no, and that happens even the first time. Like everybody starts with one merger, so nobody can merge anything, and sometimes the game will go 2 or 3 rounds and nobody raises it, and then somebody's like during the R&D phase, like, I'm going to take merger, and everybody's like,
uh-oh.
What am I protected? Am I going to be safe?
Because not only are you that merger number is how many of those companies can you merge together? So if there's 2 merged spice companies and another singular one, you have to have a merger of 3.
Yep.
To merge those, but you also have to have enough money to merge all of those individual units that are on the board of those 2 different companies.
Yes.
So if you bulk up your company enough, you can make it too expensive for anyone to merge. But certain things like shipping are just a standard and the lowest cost in the whole game, which I don't think people merge shipping enough because it is so cheap and you can screw over people that might be thinking they have an advantage.
Yes.
I remember the first game that I played, I was like, because when I was looking up the game and stuff like that, it was like, oh, you mainly, it's like, do you want to go production heavy or shipping heavy or a little less? And it was like, I want to do shipping heavy this first time. And then halfway through the first era or at the beginning of the second era, Megan was like, I'm gonna merge these together, and she took away my shipping, and I was no, never again. And so I went super heavy into shipping, and I ended up having one that crossed almost the entire map except for one spot, which would have fucked over Paul if I'd been able to get it.
Yeah.
But it definitely felt nice to have this huge shipping company where you had to spend so much money, but it's like everybody has to send through you.
Yes.
And you're like, you're not necessarily making all the money, but it's everybody's giving you, your tribute, and you're just watching that pile slowly stack up.
Yeah, I mean, like there are times like you'll see somebody like they'll ship like 8 goods, and so like say they ship 8 rice, and rice is valued at 20 a pop, so they make $160, and then they pay out like 30 and 45, and then they make like 90. But then, so they made a lot of money, but then the next player who goes, they do the same thing, and then they do the same thing. And then, if you look back, and I'm sure, if you actually totaled the money, for a round, you could see times where, whoever has the most shipping, they might have made $120, where everybody else made, 80, 90,
exactly,
90.
Yeah.
They just made theirs in smaller chunks off everyone else's play.
Yeah. So I like that you have those 2 options, that you don't have to, have both, or it's not like a production is the way to win. I like that they give you the option of you can do shipping heavy and just have a stranglehold on the oceans.
Yes.
You got to be careful with that, though. You have to make sure that your ships go to the right markets.
Exactly.
And that there's no way to circumvent your ships because...
Or you have the right hull size. You can only... You can bottleneck, I need to ship out 9 things from here, but I only have 1 ship that can hold 2 things, and that's it.
Yep.
Yeah. And that can hurt you, if you're the shipping guy, if I'd had a larger hole, he would have had to ship 5 goods through me, and one of those would have went all the way across the map and made me a ton of money.
Yeah.
Instead, I only have a whole size of 2, so he just went on 1 ship to the nearest city, and that was it.
Well, then it's nice.
Capacity.
Yeah, it's nice to have the expansion option, because there's an expansion. When you use a company, it's if a ship, you get to add more ships. If it's a company, you produce with it, and then if you ship
all of your goods,
then you get to expand on for free. But the ship ones are nice because you don't have to put it in a new space. You can use it to reinforce the current space where there's a lot of traffic.
Yes.
Then sort of forcing people to be like, oh, look how much more space I have for all of your goods.
Yes.
And if you get that out, so if on the previous turn there was only 2 and then they shipped out 9, if you get that out before they ship that one, they're like, oh, now I have 6 space and I have to ship on this long circuitous route and end up spending, because Jeff, on the last game, didn't you actually at one point have to pay more than you actually got from shipping?
I don't think I ever did, but it was close.
Well, not in total, but there was, I believe, last rice that you shipped,
Yes.
you paid 25 for and
Yes.
earned 24.
Yeah, that's what it was.
I had to give out more because it had to go a long way, and you have to.
Exactly.
Yes, it's again spotter food chain kind of rule. If you can satisfy the demand, you have to.
And
you
so
don't have a choice.
that's where turn order comes really important, because if I can send stuff,
if you and I both have spice companies and you go beforehand,
and I send it to the cities near you, then you have to send the ones near, far away, and either pay someone else a lot of money, or hopefully I had that shipping company. It's oh, sorry, I fulfilled those. You can use my ships though, go across the country if you'd like, Adrian. It's just going to cost you 20 each.
Yeah, and those shipping costs can add up. They really can. Late game, gameplay wise, and so this is getting a little bit into the mechanics of the game and the way things play.
So you're shipping to cities.
As you're shipping to these cities, so late game, there might be, if you're playing a 5-player game, there can be as many as 15 cities on the board. And they can be ranging from 1 to 2 to 3 in their size, which determines their demand. So demand can also be nearly 20. And if you're shipping 20 goods and you've got 20 demand on the board and you're shipping everywhere on the board, it gets hard to keep track of what ships you've used and who you owe money to, what routes. And especially if you're just playing the base game out of the box. You could use the little, like we said, that it comes with 1s and 5s coins, little punch out cardboard coins. You could kind of use those because ships run 5 per ship per good. So you can kind of stack money by them. We like to play with poker chips. And that kind of helps, but it's still in parts of the board where the oceans get kind of taut and narrow. It gets tricky trying to pile all right, these 3 chips are on this ship, these are on this other ship, and these are on yet another ship, all in the same region.
Yes.
And that's where, again, the component complaints, the game gets fiddly late game when people have massive companies and sprawling shipping lanes and just kind of keep tracking.
I definitely do have to appreciate the collective mind that needs to come around that, to where everyone sort of helps that.
Well, especially because a lot of time they're like, I want to make sure I get my money. So it's like, no, you can totally if you go this way, you can totally get it. It's fine.
Yeah, because it's a lot. It would be a lot and would drag out the game a lot
if everyone was quiet and it's just like, all right, let's
figure out your own shit, I guess.
Yep.
Which is interesting, like how it affects the pacing of the game. Like the first era ends usually pretty quick, 2 to 3 rounds, because there's only like 6 companies that come out.
Yeah.
And so it's real easy, in a 4 or 5 player game for those companies to get taken in just 1 or 2 rounds. Then you go into the second era and kind of the same thing. Those companies can kind of get snatched up relatively quick, but then things are starting to get fiddly enough where you're taking longer on your turns, planning your shipping routes and things like that. Then that third era hits, and only a handful of companies come out, and depending on how the game plays, some of them, they might come out and then immediately go away because they can't even start.
Yep.
Oil would be the first time in the third age as well.
Yeah. And different companies come out at different eras. But by that point, like somebody's rice company from era 1, Jeff, in our first game, might be like 20 freaking rice long.
Yeah, it was like, I'm shipping every turn, and I have a large expansion, and I don't know, how long is this island chain? Because I can totally do all of it.
Yep. And so one thing I found interesting is that I've only played it with 5 and 4 players, and I think you told me this when you played 3. If you have less, the more players you add to the game, it actually shortens the play time.
Yes. The game plays, so the rule of thumb that I've heard is 5 players takes 3 hours, 4 players takes 4, and 3 players takes 5.
Right. Because it's the same endpoint.
Same amount of companies come out.
Same amount of companies that come out. It's the same way to end each era.
It doesn't scale.
Yeah, it doesn't scale at all. So the more people you have, the easier it is to snatch everything up. But if you only have 3 players, if you don't have enough slots, then it's just like, oh, well, we just have to go another turn.
Yeah. So just to touch on that a little bit, how that scales with players and stuff, on BGG, overwhelmingly 80% say it's a best at 4, which I think I have to agree with. I think that 5 gets a little too much going on, and like individual turns take too long. Like, yes, it goes quicker for picking the companies, but like I like a little bit longer time for you to be like, all right, I'm gonna take a couple turns to make some money before I do some other stuff. Whereas in a 5-player game, it's just like boom, 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 boom.
I liked 5 a lot.
I liked 5 better than 4.
But I didn't play enough 5-player games to really cull down whether I love 4 more than 5.
So 52% say they recommend 5. 60% recommend 3. 73% do not recommend 2 players.
Like I said, I can't even imagine trying to play this with 2 players.
11% do
I'd rather play Twilight Imperium.
Yeah, I'm going to bid turn order. I bid 5. Do you want to go before or after me, Jeff?
1.
11% do not recommend 3. Only 1% do not recommend 4. And 20% do not recommend 5. So definitely, it strongly goes 4, 3, 5 for order of preference on BGG.
I definitely wouldn't play this with just 3 players.
I really enjoyed my player of 3. It took longer. Like, you'd have to go into it expecting a longer game. But I really did enjoy my 3-player game. It felt much more strategic. Like, you had longer where your companies were, like, because each era lasted a little longer, so you had a little bit more, like, to kind of plan, like, and get things going. Shipping, the value of shipping changes drastically. Shipping is way less valuable in a 3-player game because those shipping companies will max out. Like,
right.
A shipping company can only expand a certain amount in a given era. So, like, you might have a shipping company that can only expand 2 in the first era. So if the first era takes several turns, the people shipping goods are going to be making a ton of money shipping. Whereas your shipping company can't expand, so you're not able to hit those farm markets and make more money.
I think I liked the sort of chaos that the 5-player brought more than it seems like the 3-player would have.
Because, I mean, if you place a city where, like, oh, I'm expanding my rice, and, well, my city's going to go here, and you can't expand anymore.
Yes.
There's definitely more interaction that way. Because the only real interaction is, like, merge, enjoy, everyone.
Yes.
Which is one of my more favorite parts of this game.
I love the merging.
Yeah.
I will say real quick. So for me, I think it'd be 4, 5, 3 are my preferred player orders. I haven't played 2. I'm not ever going to play 2.
But you do like 4 more than 5?
I think I do like 4 more than 5. It strikes that right balance between it being too like long but strategic and short and chaotic. It strikes the right balance.
Would you
for
say
me.
that last game we played with 4 players would be an average style 4-player game, or did that one feel weird for you?
The shipping got a little weird.
Okay.
But I mean, so that's the thing. Like I said, I played nearly a dozen plays, and none of them have felt very much the same. They've all yes, you're using the same mechanics, the same companies are coming out, but who takes them, when they take them, who merges what, where ships go, like all of that is so
Where cities are.
yeah, where cities are, and all of that, it's not randomness in the game, it's unpredictability from the players, which I really like. I don't know. It's still random, I guess, in a way. It's random from my perspective, whether it's a die roll that determines where the city goes versus you arbitrarily using whatever logic you're choosing. I guess I could maybe hopefully try to learn to read you well enough. But they seem equally random to me, but I like the chaos of player decisions versus just pure random from a dice roll or a deck. I don't know. They've all felt different enough. It's hard to compare any of the 4-player games I played.
I'm just asking because that was the only one I played that was 4 versus the 5, and I liked the 5 one more, so that's why I was asking if that felt like a normal 4, because, like I said, the shipping did, but also it felt like third era took almost half the game length.
See, so. and really, looking back to our most recent game, we talked about briefly how shipping got so out of whack. It was so heavily concentrated on that southeast corner. Well, the vast majority of stuff that comes out in the third era are southwest. Or west and northwest. So nobody wanted those. So there was no incentive to take those companies. Yeah. So in that regard, it was abnormal.
Okay.
If that initial first era shipping company that went away, if somebody had that, there'd be so much more shipping up in that north and western area that I think people would have been more eager to jump on some of those other oil and rubber companies, and it wouldn't have lasted as long.
Northeastern?
Never. Yeah, so southwest is where our ships were clumped. North and east, yeah.
Yeah.
Never eat shredded wheat.
Yes.
Gotcha.
You were on
Why not? It's pretty good. I like it.
Yeah.
Frosted, really, but...
You were on a submarine. Doesn't matter what direction you go.
Port, starboard, up, down.
There you go.
Yeah.
Breach.
Yeah, so in that regard, that was abnormal in that the shipping was wonky, which really hurt those third era companies. There wasn't a single third era company that was lucrative.
Like one.
One oil one was okay, but then someone could just block it off, and then it was at that point, yeah.
It's nope. Mergers in that game also were critical to the time length.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a strong bidding phase for the basically shipping ownership of
we had
the
a
majority.
few strong.
Yeah, what was it? Did you say so? It was between me and Paul shipped, and I think you said afterwards we valued each ship at 61.
It was something
each.
Yeah.
When they're normally at 10.
Yes.
But that's because I had fucked up and given him a rice thing when I really shouldn't have, because I met his I met his maximum and I was like, I don't want to spend more, but then that's because I forgot that so when you merge companies, if it's one of your own, then
you get half.
You basically
or depending on the ratio.
So when you merge,
say that,
the companies that are getting merged, you tally up the number of spaces they control on the board. So if Paul's Rice Company has 4, and Zach's Rice Company has 5, whatever the final bid is, you have to bid in increments of 9, because the 4 and 5 is 9. And then the final payment gets broken up. Paul would get 4/9, and Zach would get 5/9. And so, if you win a bid that if one of your companies is in the merger and you win, you have to have enough money on hand to pay the winning bid, but then you pay yourself your shares.
So in that instance, I'd only pay 4 out of 9 to Paul.
Yeah.
So it's really nice, when you have two people that are bidding for their own company, because they're the bids are going to get higher than normal because they'll end up getting most.
They'll get half back.
Yeah. And so I met his maximum, and then I was like, I don't feel in my mind I was like, I don't want to pay him $450, so I'll let him do that to me, and then he did it, and he ended up paying me $200 and whatever, and I was like, oh fuck, that's right. Yeah. And so I didn't want, because he had a huge rice company then, and I did not want him to have shipping, because then he would have killed everybody.
Oh yeah, I mean, he still ended up pulling out the victory in that last game.
Yeah.
Stupid Paul.
But if I'd let him take the shipping, then he definitely would have blown past you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Especially, yeah. And so I ended up winning that one, and I ended up catching up a decent amount, but it still was like oh man, that was rough.
Yeah.
But we should note that if you get in last and people can take advantage, you can just keep ruining the person in last over and over and over.
There's not a catch-up mechanic in this respect. So.
Like if
Which
you don't,
there's not in any spotter game.
No. But if you are like, oh, I'm going to take this company and start some production, they're going to be like, well, I'm going to merge that company away from you. I have way more money than you, so here's the minimum that you could possibly bid, and here's $25 for that company. And then do that like 3 times, and it's like, good luck.
Yep.
And then the most advantage you could have is like boost up your merger and hope you get enough bank to just be like, you two merge.
Yep.
Enjoy that, fuckers.
Yeah. You can really mess with people in that regard. Because, if you're in last, I think if I was ever super last, I'm like, all right, merges is going super high, and I'm just going to, because as long as you're able to merge something, you can keep merging. Like if I merge Adrian's one,
you have slots.
Slots
and merger.
If I have an open slot, as long as I I can keep merging your guys' stuff no matter what. Even if you have to have enough money to start the merger, right?
Yes.
But outside of that, you'd be like, oh, I want to merge your ship and your ships. Okay, I want to merge that rice and your rice. I want to merge this rice and then that spices to make the Siap Faji. So. And then everyone's just like, "Oh, God, I just can't." It's like,
I was like, "Oh, you dick! I have to add money," and then it's just a grueling merge of decisions.
Well,
and
then
bidding.
especially like late game, you get to this point where you're like, "Well, shit!" Like as you're totaling things up, you're like, "I think I'm valuing this." Like, so each spice earns 25 per spice. You're like, well, I'm currently like we're merging this, and like my bid right now. Like, if I bid the minimum like increment above, I'm going to be valuing those at like 50 a piece, which means they need to ship at least twice for me. Is there enough time left in the game for those to ship twice? Like, how fucked am I going to be? Like, how high can I go?
That's too much thought. It's just, I'm not going to let Paul have this. Fuck you, Paul. I will bid until I have no more money.
Yeah. Merger's real good.
Yeah,
I like merge.
I think the merger mechanic in this game is really what makes this game. All the other things, otherwise it's not quite pick up and deliver. It's just like deliver.
Deliver and pay someone.
Yeah, and that's not particularly interesting. It's the mergers and how companies can change hands and move. Like one of the things when I teach this game, I try to stress to people. Like, so first of all, each era you're going to be placing a city. That's not your city. Like you're just placing a city. Don't think of it as yours. It does not matter.
Where you can just ship things to.
Everyone can ship things to it. It's not yours. Don't worry about that. And then in addition to that, don't get attached to any company you ever own.
Yep.
Like you need to be ruthless about sometimes you want to almost lure people into merging your companies so that you can cut a company.
Get some money and then have enough money to merge something that you really want.
Yeah, or open a slot so you can take a new company that's going to make more money in the next era. Like,
or let it go just to know that you have enough money to defend against someone wanting to merge the thing you really want.
Yeah, let your small little rice company go so you can defend your shipping company. Something like that. And that's something that people can struggle with. I've seen like some of the people I've played with have struggled with that idea. Like they get attached to their companies. Like, this is my company, and then somebody merges it. And like, why are you attacking me? Like why are you doing this? It's like, sorry, it's just business. This isn't personal. It's just business. Don't be attached to anything in this game except money,
especially your own companies.
Unless you want to go into shipping, just fuck all you guys.
Yeah,
I'm the shipping monopolizer.
Are you saying that you are the captain now?
Yes.
Okay.
I am the one that knocks.
All right. So, final thoughts for this game. Zach, how about we start with you?
I don't know about that. All right.
Well, Jeff, how about
No.
Oh, not
I think we're going different order. We're going different order. We're going to go super positive, not so positive, and then we'll see what I think about it.
Yep, there we go.
We're going to start with Adrian.
Yep.
All right, well, that's fine, because everybody already knows what I think. I've been talking about this game for like 6 months now. I absolutely love Indonesia. Like we were just talking about gameplay. Mergers, I think, are fantastic. They're what make this game. I've played nearly a dozen times, and although things start in the same areas and everything, they've never felt the same. They've played different. You can have general strategies, but you got to be willing to adapt on the fly, all of which I absolutely love. It does get very fiddly in the late game, which I think hurts the overall draw of this game. Like, you spend so much time calculating shipping and figuring out how to do things that the back end of the game drags more than I would like for how good it is. Ultimately, I think, although I love this game and I have it rated as a 10 on BGG, I do prefer Food Chain. I'll see as I play more Splotters. Antiquity's getting a reprint this year. I'm sure I'll get to play Roads and Boats. Paul has that now. Edward and Amanda have that up at Heavy Cardboard. Like, there's plenty of places that other people who have other Splotters. I'm going to get to play more Splotters in the coming year. We'll see where Indonesia sits right now. It is just barely below Food Chain. I think it's a great game. I have it ranked to 10. The board could be bigger, so there's more space. It could be a little less fiddly. Well, I wish it was less fiddly. I don't know if it could be. I don't know how you'd change that to make it less fiddly in the end. But overall, the gameplay itself and the variability and the depth of strategy super appeal to me. Yeah, it's one of my top 5 games, hands down. Zach?
So, first off, I would just say, like, I would definitely rate this above Food Chain easily, because I don't know if I'll ever play. I have no desire to play Food Chain ever again.
We have a gentleman's agreement.
We do. I do.
No Adrian, no Paul.
Yes. Yes. And I have agreed to that just to see, but I don't have a desire to do that.
It's not like, man, we need to do that without them right now.
No, it's just like, I agreed to it whenever you guys are like, all right, let's do this. I'm like, all right, let's do it.
All right, let's do this.
Yep. Get to plug my nose and then just dive. Just get in there and then be like, okay.
The water's nice. I think I'll stay.
I don't know. It seems like shit to me. Negatives first. I definitely think the components are lackluster. They printed it wrong. They printed it wrong, and it didn't like they were just like, yeah, it's too big. Okay, here's something else you could do, but like it felt like they should have gone more in that regard in trying to fix it. I don't like the map. Like we were saying earlier, the colors could be better. You can't. The pictures are too small on some of the for some of those spaces. Paper money. I don't have to say anything other than that. But at 5 players, I thought it was okay. I enjoyed the. So I think the things that made me enjoy the game is our gaming group, and I believe. Because we played with Megan at the 5-player one, and you said that she said, I don't know if I want to play with them again. They're way too cutthroat in that game.
Well, she felt that, and it didn't necessarily come from like the decision we made in the game. It was largely like the attitude we took about it. Like we relished in like, oh, I'm fucking you right now, and you can't do a damn thing about it.
Yes, I liked that. I did relish in that. I do not think I would ever play it outside of our gaming group, especially with like new people I didn't know. I'd be like, if we're at Gen Con or if for whatever reason I went to Heavy Con, there's a 4-player one and a 5 one. They're like, hey, would you like to play? No.
Let's be honest, you're never going to Heavy Con.
That's why I said for whatever reason if I went there. So, but yeah, I think I would, I don't know. I feel like I would give it a 7 out of 10 on my scale because
that's way higher than I was expecting.
Like I said, like if it had turned out like Food Chain and how Food Chain handles all its player I don't know how Food Chain played. If it played like that, I definitely wouldn't have liked it. But I did like I said, I did like the mergers. Although I personally didn't want to try and merge. I just wanted to fight against them. I enjoyed that I could be like I want to be the shipping king, or I want to produce these other ones. I did like that it did have some interesting decisions, but because with 5 players, your strategy can't go too deep because
it can change.
It can change at a drop of a hat. Well, on one
one turn.
In one part of the thing, it can drop it because you can always, like you said, you merge as long as you have spots and stuff like that. So it's like, oh, you merge these things. You know what? I'm gonna merge these over here until someone is just like, I don't want to do it anymore, and you're just like, oh God, my rice. Please leave my rice alone.
Don't hurt my rice.
Yeah. But yeah, it's fine. I think what makes the game is the group we were playing with, and that otherwise it would just be okay. Well, otherwise it would be meh, but it is okay. I did enjoy the time we played it, but I felt 3 hours is about as long, I think, for the game for me. When we played with 4 players and it went 4 hours, that felt about an hour and a half too long. And I noticed as soon as I started making mistakes in that was like, okay, I think that's when I lost interest in the game.
So don't make mistakes.
Yeah. Well, if I lost interest in the game, I don't care if I make mistakes. I was like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Okay. But, I'm definitely not like you, Adrian. I'm never like, oh, next time I'm going to do this. It's always just like in the heat of the moment of the game. It's just like, okay, this is what I have to deal with. Let's try and figure out something. And I think that worked better with 5 players than with 4. So,
okay. Jeff, you organized this order so that you could have the dramatic reveal.
My dramatic reveal is I am more positive than Zach and more negative than Adrian and fall right in the middle.
Yep.
I think I agree with a lot of what Zach says. I like this game a lot more than Food Chain because it is not as brutal in your strategy decisions, and it's more on the fly of what you have to do with the mergers and things like that. The mergers absolutely make this game, but you can run away with certain portions of the game, like where my rice game, I was fucking Rice Lord, and like I had grown it so much that I was like, good luck fucking merging this away from me. I'll take money, please. Cash is fine as long as it's not paper money.
Yep.
I think the components get too much of a pass in this game, even between like first and second edition. Like most Splatter games, this has an amazing game underneath the many inches of grime and component crud that is on top of it. Is probably the best way to like that rule book is fantastic. Now, can they make some components that are just as good? With this game, which that's its biggest opportunity. And I've seen so much of this game where it's like, well, just replace this part and this part and this part, and it's whatever that ship of Theseus or whatever.
Yes,
you replace all of it. Is it still Indonesia when it gets all the way around the world?
Man,
or
you're still playing with the exact same rule set. Like, come on, it's still
the same people on the boat, but the boat is totally different now.
The boat sails the same and does all the same things. It's still the ship of Theseus.
Well, we know your opinions on that logic puzzle,
but it seems like they just don't. They don't like. I don't want to say they don't care, but it's not a priority to them. So it seems like it would never no matter for people like us, Jeff. It's sort of falling on deaf ears in that respect
because everyone's gonna be like, yeah.
Well, not everyone. No, they get a ton of shit over their components, over their artwork.
Well, that's what I mean.
Those of us who like Splatter, though, we like the gameplay underneath enough to
ignore all of the problems with the components and things like that.
The second edition printing that we played.
Besides even the second edition printing of the 2 large components, which is not a problem because that thing I did not have a problem with. You just had giant pieces and that's okay.
And you just changed what you used them for. Instead of using them like they originally, when they were smaller, were supposed to mark the farm, like your plantations. Now you just use them to mark where you shipped.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah.
But
they look goofy, but otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, they're big.
They fixed the map is way better than it was in first edition. They've improved.
Oh, God.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, that's all I can say to that.
The first edition map is real bad. Yeah. I would not have been defending the first edition map. The second edition map, there's a couple places where at the start of the game, if you're playing, especially if you're playing with new players who aren't familiar with the game, you should point out this is a separate sea area.
Yeah.
See this little small line? That's a divider. See this space over here? See how it touches actually these 3 places very smallly? And then I do wish the board was slightly bigger so that the pieces fit in the smallest of the territories. Like I don't I'm not denying there's problems. I just don't think they're egregious. I don't agree that it's buried under piles of problems. I think there's a great game with a little bit of rust on the surface.
Now, my biggest downside of this game is length.
Yes.
That I think I would play games that are better and get more out of in a shorter playtime. That's probably, I don't dislike this game. I like it more than Zach and less than Adrian, but I don't know if I need to play this game for 4 hours very often, where I could play other games like Great Western Trail that I enjoy more strategy-wise and tactics-wise.
I feel you, Jeff. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Seriously, Great Western Trail?
Yeah.
That game is so boring.
I don't have a response for that.
Boring. There are so many other games you could throw in there where I'd be like, well, given you guys' taste, sure, I could see that. But
That's a great choice then, Jeff.
Great Western Trail? Come on.
I mean, we could play Munchkin and
Jesus Christ. All right.
This is definitely a grand strategy game with many different choices, and I think there's some better stuff out there than Indonesia is anymore. Not that I would never play Indonesia again, because I did enjoy it, but it could be better components.
like I could be talked into playing this again, but it would have to be in our group. It'd have to be with 5 players. So, and it definitely would never be at game night ever.
No.
100 times no.
No. Even I won't do that
Special
again.
occasion gaming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, let's get on to some fan feedback for this. We'll start with Twitter because Twitter's pretty simple for this one. So Bob tweeted us. He says, is Sulawesi the best island to utilize? It's practically the X on a map. Gotta be good for treasure or something. So it depends entirely on the shipping. Sulawesi can be... Jeff, are you trying to find Sulawesi?
I don't know where it is.
So zoom out.
Zooming.
Up, right.
Up.
Nope. To the right, to the east. East more. There it is. That's Sulawesi.
Okay. Yeah, that looks real good.
It can be pretty good. It is certainly not the best. Not by a long shot. Its X is deceiving.
Yeah, that's definitely X.
Where is it at?
It's pretty much dead center in the map. Yeah. It's an awkward X. It's a very awkward X.
It's more like a K. I'd call.
Oh, okay. Now I see that. Yeah,
It's Bob. You know, he sees an X.
I mean, I get it. I wish they wouldn't have used cursive. I don't know.
Yeah. Alan says, I haven't finished my first game, so no thoughts outside of interesting, need to play more. He says, I'm still waiting for the ramifications of choices to see what works and doesn't. The fun exploring part, so I can get into the strategy.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then Tom says, does Zach think it's really awesome or just awesome? To which I replied, he thinks it's really, really awesome, actually. And he says, this story checks out. So
my answer would be or.
We do also have a long Twitter thread about our last play of Indonesia. It is entertaining top to bottom.
Yep.
Congested shipping lanes in southwest Indonesia. So expect travel times to increase throughout the day.
Yep.
They did.
Zach's Twitter game was on point through that last play. All right, Zach, what do we got for BGG?
So for BGG, we have Scott. Yeah. Okay, so after this, I ended with my thing. I was like, am I free to go yet, Adrian? ? That's how I ended it.
Read these BGG threads because effort goes into these sentences. To be fair,
and so Scott goes, you aren't free to go unless you admit Indonesia is better than terraforming Mars.
I guess we're here forever.
Yeah, I will die not a free man, I guess.
Yeah.
I will happily admit that I prefer Indonesia to Terraforming Mars, but not by much.
Okay.
Terraforming Mars is a really good game.
All right. So Mike says, I'm guessing it will be a bit more of a heated debate this week. For Jeff and Zach, if Adrian held a gun to your head and told you if you had to play Indonesia or Food Chain Magnate, what would you choose? I think we would both just grab the gun and shoot Adrian instead.
Twice.
Oh, bullshit. You already said you'd play Indonesia.
No, yes, exactly. Yeah.
It would be Indonesia.
Yeah. And wait.
And I'm good with my guns. You wouldn't grab them away from me.
Nothing would go over your head.
Yes.
Your
No.
reflexes
We would
are
grab
quick.
Yes.
And then he goes and says, wait, is Adrian holding your gun to your head for this review? I think we need a code word. If you're being held hostage, Jesus afraid, I really need a hug in the next episode.
So we can't use it now, but next episode.
Next episode.
It's just going to be the title of the next episode.
Yeah. Paul, my Indonesia thoughts from Baltimore. The merger mechanic is fantastic, and I would instantly want to play more games with it. One of you mentioned a game with a similar mechanic, but I forgot what it is.
Yeah, we talked about it after we played on Saturday, and I also don't remember.
I seem to remember, this is like, I played this in my, I want to say 6th or 7th year of college. I don't really remember.
Because it was an old game.
Acquire.
Acquire, okay.
Acquire had a thing where it was like different companies, but then like when they touched, they would merge together, and it was like whoever, but it wasn't the same one in this one where you could bid for it, I don't think.
You couldn't force a merger. They had to like meet.
But they
merge.
met, and then I seem to remember that's what it was.
Okay.
So number 2, I love Splutter's philosophy around you should be able to lose a game in the first turn. I think Indonesia takes this to a new level in that your opponents can always make a critical error that gets you back in the game. I can't think of another game where the outcome can shift so much, even near the end of the game, without any luck at all.
Which
It's a lot of things to that merger mechanic.
it really comes like even in this game, like there was a point in our game about halfway through the game where Paul was like, "Well, I think we're Jeff, you and I are playing for third, and we're seeing who wins out of Zach and Adrian."
Yes.
He's like, "But I feel like one of them might make a critical error that will allow me to take second." Instead, we both made critical errors, and he took first.
Yes. Now, that is fine. Like, that works. That if someone fucks up, I think someone should.
Yeah, 100%.
But I really hate you should be able to lose a game.
Which
first.
you're not losing Indonesia on the first turn.
No, but I really hate the idea
You
of
put yourself in a real bad spot.
you
but you're
can
not
but
losing on the first
yes,
turn.
exactly.
You can lose on the first turn of Food Chain Magnate.
Yes, exactly. I
like the idea. I think sometimes they're implementing. Like I've even said during our Food Chain review, I think Food Chain is particularly harsh with that. I like the idea.
I like the idea of every turn should matter.
Yes,
but the fact that if you fuck up once, you can lose. Like
that sucks.
I think it needs to be a series of. It's like it's steps to failure versus a cliff.
Okay, fair enough.
So 3, yes, I'm still annoyed with Splatter's component quality.
Art, design.
Yeah, Paul's with us, so
art is entirely subjective. So I don't accept
maybe
that
not
as a
even
valid.
art design,
And
but
components.
design, as in like in terms of the board design.
Yeah,
that I think that is a valid complaint. I can understand if you're like, if you don't mind the colors as much.
I mean, I've only played 2 of their games. To be fair,
Yeah.
Food Chain I think is entirely functional, and they have a specific art aesthetic that they went for.
Yeah.
And I think they nailed. It fits exactly what I get from that game. Like I have no problems with components or art from Food Chain. Components from Indonesia, there were some issues with the misprint of the larger tiles. I think the board could be bigger, so there's more space, but I have no problem with the board layout or design.
Because of the size, I think the layout is flawed. So
Okay.
But just listen to what we just said.
I still don't think any of that's components. I think that's graphic design and layout.
Well, it's a good thing we don't review.
Separate.
It's a good thing we don't review those at all.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
4. What is Zach's next game selection? I feel like we are always forcing him to play heavy games, and I'm starting to feel bad. Wait, and I'm starting to feel bad, but not really.
Yeah. There's a question on that.
Yeah. We're doing El Torre next week.
Yes.
It's totally mine.
Which is totally in Zach's wheelhouse.
Yes.
Co-op
So-
thematic.
Yep.
So we'll
I'm
do
all in.
So we'll do the exact opposite next week. It'll be Zach who gives his good first.
Yep.
I'll give his bad, and then Jeff will come in the middle and be like, "Well, I like the game less than Zach, but more than Adrian."
Or just as much as Zach.
Yeah. So yeah, and then the last one, which I was supposed to read now. Apparently, I haven't read it until this is from Anthony. I suspect the spice in the review will be in the form of salt.
You guys are so salty.
Dot.
Ellipses.
No, it's
No, it's
ellipses and then
plus,
a dot.
plus period.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just kidding. Maybe half kidding. Been looking forward to this one for a while. Love the game and interested in hearing your thoughts on it.
We didn't get as salty
No.
as
No, I
suspected.
thought it might get a little saltier, and especially like when I read it, like I loved I suspect the spice will be salt. Like
spicy salt.
it made me laugh out loud when I read it.
That's it for Board Game Geek.
Yeah.
The only other complaint I have about this game, fucking when does it take place? It's like oil and rubber and spices and then whatever siaf faji, which is a spelling error in the game. It's not faji, it's saji or something.
Yeah, and it's
And
supposed to
also
be.
supposed to be fast.
Salt is not a spice.
I don't know.
I know. I just want to. No, I just want to say.
But like siaf,
Because I was just like, is salt? I don't think salt is a spice.
Did you just look it up?
I did. Yeah.
I'm
It's a seasoning, but it's not a spice.
Does it talk about the difference? Or
Well,
does it say
what it's
salt is
considered
not
a spice. A spice is a seed, fruit, root, bark, or other plant substance primarily used for flavoring, coloring, or preserving food. And that's it's rock.
Okay.
It's like a yeah. So
All right.
it's supposed to be siap saji.
Yeah.
But that also translates to like fast food. Like
Yeah, it's supposed to be like an instant meal, and that's why you combine the rice and the spice to get like
spicy rice
yes, an instant meal
or
microwave dinners.
ricey spice. I don't care, whichever one you want.
Shut up, Zach.
I don't know. Were they the first people to use the word fast food? Is that different than the American version of fast food?
I do not know.
It looks like a takeout box is kind of the problem that I have.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought it looked like I guess I don't think it's not square enough to be a takeout box.
Well, I mean, it's got like a lid and like a bottom and a top, And like
It looks like a bowl with like a small little lid. Like it could be a nice little porcelain bowl with a lid. I don't know.
CF Saji. If anyone's from Indonesia and would like to correct us on what CF Saji is,
Or if anybody knows the history of CF Saji.
Yes.
You don't even have to be Indonesian.
yes, and also that's a pretty critical spelling error for Faji not being a word in Indonesian.
Yeah.
So I was going to say Wikipedia has it, but then it goes into the Indonesian Wikipedia, and my Indonesian is very rusty.
It's very.
All right, let's
All right,
start,
Jeff, I just want you to read this now. And
start to wrap this up and put a bow on it. No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to put him through that. As fun as it would be. If you are interested in picking up a copy of Indonesia now that you have listened to our review and you think you need to own it, it is in stock from a couple of places. It's running about $90 to $100 depending on where you go. Card House has it for $91. Cool Stuff has it for $95. Fun Again for $99. Yeah, so it's in a couple different places for that $90 to $100 range. They just did the second printing. The second edition just came out in 2016, so there probably won't be a new edition soon. So if you're interested, sooner is better for buying it because those prices are just going to climb. But yeah, that's Indonesia from Splotter Spellen. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Zach and Jeff, for indulging me and playing another ridiculously heavy Splotter game.
It's a good thing this one was pretty good.
It'll be a little while before I force Antiquity on you.
Honestly, they better change the art on that one. Just a little.
Supposedly they are. We'll see what the second printing
Swear to God,
looks
if everything has a white border on it, oh, fucking hell. If the rules still have a white border on them for whatever fucking reason. Anyway.
Yes. So, as Zach mentioned earlier, next week's review is going to be Eldritch Horror. We're going to delve into some ridiculous dice tossing, card drawing, random thematic nonsense.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And we're going into my favorite theme, Cthulhu.
Cthulhu, yes.
Yes.
Yep.
It's going to be fun. So stay tuned for that one. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email us.
Emails at milehighgameguys.com.
You can get a hold of us on Twitter at MHGameGuys.
I am Zach_MHGG.
I'm Jeff_MHGG.
We have Facebook and Instagram /Mile High Game Guys. And we have a Board Game Geek Guild 2731, where there will shortly be a thread for said review of Eldritch Horror, where you can give us your thoughts, questions, comments, concerns about that game. And if you have any thoughts on our review of Indonesia, feel free to jump over to the existing Indonesia thread and fill us back in, and we'll talk about those in a later episode. Be sure to check out show notes for links to our Patreon and our Slack channel, where you can just chat with us randomly throughout the day, from everything to like Murder Island to beer to conventions.
We should rename that to Murder Island. I'm going to do it.
Oh, yeah, it's not PUBG anymore. It's Murder Island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to chat with us more directly, join our Slack channel. There will be a link in the show notes. So, as always, I've been your host, Adrian.
I am still Zach.
And I'm Pengu Saha Jeff.
And we'll catch you later. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
That's businessman in Indonesian.
Okay. You can also cause two companies of the same kind to merge.
God damn it, Zach.
I thought I turned that off.
Jeff.
I just write one big cut for the rules breakdown. It's never
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the
rules start, rules end.
They're not usually quite so egregious as
like
this.
cuts.
Yep.
I just stopped trying because there was a lot.
Punchboard Media,
where we all
bring something
to the table.
Pull up a chair
at punchboardmedia.com.